You're from wereadtheconstitution.org, right?
.com.
.com. And what exactly is your guys' goal with that website?
What we're trying to do is get the American people to be more familiar with what the Constitution actually says. And so we're encouraging as a patriotic event in public spaces or backyards, public readings of the U.S. Constitution. It takes a little under an hour, and it can be done, a small group can all read it together, or you can have readers take turns. On our website, we actually provide two different scripts, if you will, one for 6 readers and one for 10 readers, dividing up the Constitution all the way through all the amendments to help people have a nice event.
Other than reading the Constitution, do you think that we need to educate more about it, or do you think that just reading the Constitution will be good?
Oh, reading the Constitution is just the starting point in our schools, in our law schools even. The Constitution itself needs to be studied. In our first year constitutional law class, the students start right off reading cases. I can tell you, having been a graduate of Syracuse Law, 89, we never went through the whole Constitution, and we should have done that first. And in fact, I can remember the professor talking about the Declaration of Independence, saying that that wasn't part of our law, that is not relevant to, understanding the Constitution, or is of no use in constitutional law, constitutional jurisprudence. We need to get people reading the Constitution, becoming familiar with its history, and actually a group that we partner with, we read the Constitution.com as a project of Let Freedom Ring and Constituting America, which was founded by the actress Janine Turner and Kathy Gillespie. And they have a year-round program where they have contests for school children all the way up into adulthood to do various, essays or whatever on the Constitution. They have webinars, which bringing in scholars, including people from Hillsdale and other fine, and from Heritage and so forth, going through the Federalist Papers. All of that is very important. And we need to get the idea out that when we're talking about the Constitution, we have to start with the text of the Constitution and an idea of what were the problems that the framers were what were they trying to fix about the Articles of Confederation? What was going wrong in the 1780s that they were compelled to change the whole thing?
Mm-hmm. Aside from the Rule of Law Amendment, which is obviously more of an academic exercise than an actual attempt at an amendment, what do you think smaller steps that we can do, whether through the government or regular people, to get back to closer of a proper reading of the Constitution?
Well, are you asking how do we get more back to limited government too, or
what steps would you like the government to take, first of all, that are reasonable and actually possible to happen these days? And a second part of the question is, what do you think us as average citizens can do to help these causes?
Well, so much of what the federal government does now is unconstitutional. It's not grounded in any of the enumerated powers.
3/4 of the
That's a rough guess.
Estimate,
a rough guess. Certainly more than half. I'd say it's probably about 3/4 of what the federal government does. There's no constitutional writ for it.
Is that they're just acting in powers not enumerated in the Constitution? You think they're acting outside of their bounds?
Well, that's right. That's right. Most of well, like for instance, take Obamacare.
Mm-hmm.
The administrations, until we got the Supreme Court decision, they were arguing that it was an exercise of the Commerce Clause, as is just about everything in law school. For the bar review course that I took before taking the bar exam, on the constitutional section of that, it was talking about the Commerce Clause. Here's the question: what can the government do under the Commerce Clause?
Everything. And
the answer was anything it wants. Now, that was before the case in the 90s that said the gun-free school zones was too far. But the Commerce Clause now is used to basically create a federal police power. And if you're not familiar, that's sort of a term of art. The term police power predates police.
Right.
But what it means is the plenary power to regulate to ensure the health, safety, and morals of the community, of the state,
General welfare.
whatever. Right, and that's another thing, is that the general welfare, as used at the start of Article 1, Section 8, is merely saying the well-being of the people. It's one of the reasons that, and to provide for the common defense, are the reasons for those powers that are listed underneath them. So we need to get back. So much of what the federal establishment, which in its enabling legislation, Congress ties to the Commerce Clause, falls if the Commerce Clause only authorizes the government to regulate the movement of goods and commodities across state lines and the navigation and transportation involved with that. And what the specific problem the framers were dealing with was that in the 1780s, the states were setting up trade barriers. They were putting up tariffs. They had their own currencies, and it was destructive. It was preventing the great American economy from getting its engines going. So it was a deregulatory aim, the Commerce Clause. It was so that the federal government could clear out all of these regulations that states were putting up that were inhibiting trade, which was inhibiting the prosperity and welfare of the people. Somehow we've stood that on its head and made the Commerce Clause the justification for the huge regulatory state. That is not right, and it should not stand.
And how can the average person get involved, other than obviously reading the Constitution and visiting your website? What would you like to see students my age, people like me, go out and do?
Well, I think we need to be always asking the question, where is that in the Constitution? So the next time the government is, has a program to do something, we should be asking, where is that in the Constitution? But we also need to be constructive. Right now, we have certain big federal programs, certain entitlement programs, certain things that now people have incorporated in their financial planning, like Social Security, Medicare, and so forth, which need to be unwound and transferred to another entity. Now, one possibility are interstate compacts, like take Social Security. Which, by the way, was upheld by the Supreme Court, I think, in the 1940s as a tax, just like Chief Justice Roberts did on Obamacare. Imagine if the states got together, formed an interstate compact to run that program, and because it's not part of the federal government, which prints its own money and has the Federal Reserve there, the administration of it actually was subject to fiduciary rules and ethics, and you could go to jail if you took the money out of that trust fund and did something else with it, which is what happens now. And they could change it so that people actually, for the money they've been putting into Social Security, they're getting a terrible payoff. I think in many cases you would do better putting in a passbook savings account, if anyone remembers what that is. So we can actually make things work better for people and take them away from the federal government. And I think young people need to be thinking about creative things like that. How can we use things like interstate compacts and other things to move some of these functions out of the federal government, which will actually make them work better for people. And Social Security is just one example. And as we're doing this, become more familiar with what the Constitution means, why limited government makes America exceptional, as Senator DeMint the other day so eloquently put in his open letter to President Putin. That's the kind of things I think we can start doing.
All right, thank you.
Thank you very much.